All right, welcome back. I hope that you enjoyed the last couple pieces of content, which would be the foreign aid debate from yesterday with Johnny Vito and Just My Stupid Opinion. And also, I had a video today earlier that I will try to put at the end of this video with the link talking about Jay-Z and Bill Maher and the generational divide within liberalism. And here on this channel, I do try to confront things that are uncomfortable. And one of the more uncomfortable issues is what's going on with President Trump and his following. And to tell you the truth, I see two different problems. There's a problem with people who are too slavishly loyal to Donald Trump, no matter what he says, whether it's with regard to policy in Venezuela, with Hugh Hewitt openly advocating for an invasion there, or this is also important, people like Bill Mitchell that said, well, the real important thing is if Donald Trump wins, and if we can get more Democrats to vote for Donald Trump, we should support red flag laws. And a lot of people who have been following the goings on for the past 2-3 years have realized that no matter how much Trump happens to be someone that makes you feel good and gives you a very energizing feeling about the way the country is going, there are issues with his administration where you just can't support it. Things like the red flag law, things like the rising debt, things like runaway military spending, which is related to the debt, things like intervention in the Middle East and supplying Saudi Arabia. But overall, I would say I still feel better about Trump being in office than I do about any of the other people running against him. And that brings me to the second group, which are the people who are so irrationally and obsessively against Donald Trump that they inadvertently, or maybe this is part of some grand scheme to actually help Donald Trump, they're really making it clear why there might not be a better choice. Okay, I think a lot of you are probably aware I was a Rand Paul supporter. I still think Dr. Paul would be a better president than almost any of the other people either vying for the office or who are currently in the office, like Donald Trump. I was a supporter of Rand Paul's father, Ron Paul. I wouldn't say I was a very obsessive supporter, but he was definitely an inspiration for the viewpoint that I take on almost any issue relating to government spending and domestic policy, and some of the things that he advocates for foreign policy. And I have to sometimes adjust for things that I don't really agree with him on. But on a philosophical level, you can never 100% support one candidate. It's just a fact that everybody is different, and no two people 100% agree on everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Never Trump movement today, and they never seem to die. They never ever seem to realize that as a group, they don't really have any legs in America. Meaning that, yeah, there are people, and we're looking here at specifically Joe Walsh, who's he's this former congressman from Chicago area. He is one of the most idiotic never Trumpers that you'll ever hear from. And the idea is that these people are so obsessive about Donald Trump and his personality and his character and the things that he says that it becomes apparent that they don't really have any ideas of their own anymore. In a certain sense, they're people who spent their entire lives believing in something, and then because someone else has accomplished more in that regard than they did, they have abandoned all of their principles out of jealousy. So Walsh actually tweeted yesterday on the 19th, there must be a Republican primary referendum on Trump. not a referendum on tariffs, not on the debt and deficits, not on the wall. It's got to be a referendum on Trump, a referendum on his unfitness, his dishonesty, his disloyalty, his cruelty, his incompetence, and his narcissism. Let me explain to people very quickly what's going on. You have this Scaramucci issue that's cropping up right now with uh, Anthony Scaramucci. For those of you that don't remember, and now he's apparently getting in front of the cameras all the time. It's almost as if he suddenly if once somebody turns against Trump, the media clears their schedule and they can let him on anytime they want, and eventually they get tired of him because people don't really pay attention anymore. They get burnt out, and the ratings just don't get anything out of it. So Scaramucci claims that he is assembling a team of former cabinet members to speak out against Trump. But I would say that would be a failed idea. That would be a non-starter to begin with. The reality is that Donald Trump has made several poor personnel decisions since he became president, or since he was elected, rather. The number one poor cabinet pick, in my opinion, was always Rex Tillerson, who was Secretary of State. If Rex Tillerson is among the people who Scaramucci is digging up from the grave, this will only make me want to vote for Trump more, because I personally thought that Rex Tillerson sent this message that as president, Donald Trump would merge corporate America with the government and basically put our government up for sale, put our public interest up for sale. And I was ecstatic when he fired, what's his name? Rex Tillerson. I thought it was definitely an upgrade to get Mike Pompeo. And obviously, Pompeo then went on to broker a summit between Trump and Kim Jong-un. And I've had issues with Pompeo as well, but I would say he's a vast improvement on Rex Tillerson, who was just complete garbage in my opinion. The second cabinet pick that if Scaramucci brings out is another indicator that he's basically, dumpster diving, is Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions was a horrible attorney general, and if Trump had picked someone else to be attorney general, it's more than likely that his first term in office, if he gets a second term, would have been much more successful than it was, because Sessions' decision to recuse himself from the Russia investigation has been a hindrance on the Trump presidency from the get-go. And that's why, for example, I consider William Barr, the replacement for Jeff Sessions, to be the best cabinet pick so far. Relatively. I would say Bill Barr has to close the deal on a lot of these investigations and really show that he is going to hold these members of the intelligence community and the Justice Department and law enforcement and the political elite accountable for all of the numerous crimes that have been exposed that never Trumpers like Joe Walsh and like Scaramucci, who's joined them, that they don't really seem to care about anymore. They seem to care more about Donald Trump than about all of the misdeeds and crimes that have been committed in order to prevent Trump from getting into power according to the Republican democratic process. Okay, according to the way our elections are done, the deep state doesn't have a voice into who becomes president, but for some reason the Never Trumpers don't seem to care about that. And finally, you also have James Mattis. I would say if James Mattis comes out and becomes a vocal critic of Donald Trump, that could become an issue to some degree. I think James Mattis, as a former Marine general, is someone that had a lot of dignity and courage, and certainly came out and professed a vision. Maybe not the vision that all of us would agree with, but it's a little different, dealing with opposition from just this leech like Rex Tillerson, who should have never been Secretary of State, as opposed to someone like James Mattis. You also have some other hangers-on like Omarosa and people like that. Yeah, the Trump administration had plenty of weirdos that have gone through the White House, and that's why you can't totally, I wouldn't say you can totally give him a pass for everything he did as president. Certainly, he's been a better president than President Bush. President Obama certainly had a lot of rocky situations during his first term in office. And as a whole, I don't think President Obama was a great president. I think it was a bad president, to be honest. I just happen to think George Bush was worse. And then you have the counterbalance to the Never Trump movement is the thriving group of authors who look at them and just laugh and laugh and laugh, which gets me to the real point here. You have these people like Joe Walsh that are just incompetent morons. This is a guy who was convinced by Sacha Baron Cohen to participate in whatever nonsense he was doing with the. I never really paid attention to this. I thought it was kind of a weird, stupid show. But he dressed up as this Israeli counterterror specialist named Colonel Eran Morad. And you can actually see his face here. Anybody who's
I needed the help of gun rights hero Philip Van Cleef.
My next guest is a gun rights advocate.
I mean, he looks just unbelievable. I mean,
yes. So I would like you to help me do instructional video for 3-year-olds.
Okay.
Shalom, children. My name is Eran Morad. I here to show you that guns.
So yeah, to me, maybe if I was in the situation, I wouldn't think it was so obvious. But it looks pretty obvious that he's fake. Okay, I'll try to make this a little larger.
When used responsibly, with training from grown-ups, can help keep you safe in your school.
So yeah, that was him. Here is Joe Walsh plugging this stupid program on behalf of Sacha Baron.
The intensive 3-week kindergarten course introduces specially selected children from 12 to 4 years old to pistols, rifles, semi-automatics, and a rudimentary knowledge of mortars. In less than a month.
Yeah, I think these people are complete idiots. And I'm sorry if we have to use some. I mean, I think Sacha Baron Cohen, he's certainly funny in some of his stuff. I don't think. I personally didn't find this show to be. I found the jokes to kind of fall flat. I didn't really get any laughs out of it. Obviously, the prank was pretty well pulled off since so many idiots fell for it. So I'll give him credit for that. But the fact of the matter is this. A lot of the people who became part of the Never Trump movement are simply careerists. They're people who decided, well, what we really want to do is get back at Trump for not including us in his group of gargoyles and gremlins that would basically create another Bush administration, another fake conservative administration. And yet, you have real problems with the Trump administration. Senator Paul said a couple weeks ago that the Tea Party movement is dead. And unfortunately, it's been the complicity of a lot of American quote-unquote conservatives who don't really want to hold Congress accountable for its runaway budgets and its lack of transparency. That's why the Trump presidency can't be called a total success, and it's a very, very, very partial success up until now. I guess there are things that you should be pleased with if you're a conservative. For example, today I believe it was announced that Planned Parenthood was losing $60 million in funding due to a new requirement that the Trump administration implemented. You can talk about the way that he's been able to bring back certain manufacturing jobs. You can even talk about the fact that he has restructured the federal court system. And the Supreme Court has swung certainly a little more to the conservative originalist side. And, there is some construction going on with the wall. But until we can really address the problems with the Republican Party as a whole and move beyond just the personal Trump issue and talk about the need for accountability within the conservative movement for these people to actually be directly answerable to their constituents, then I'm afraid we're going to have this ridiculous debate over whether Trump really represents conservatism or not. That doesn't really matter. Donald Trump is one of the oldest politicians in I guess the national spotlight right now. He's, I believe, 72 years old. He might even be 73 now, and I don't think he's necessarily going to live through his second term if he gets reelected. It's a possibility that Donald Trump will be leaving office not of his own will, but certainly due to health problems due to his advanced age. Now, I know some of you might think I'm scaremongering, but it doesn't matter. Even if Donald Trump serves his full 2 terms in office, if he gets reelected, then what happens after that? Who carries the mantle of whatever this movement is after Donald Trump? There's no way to tell, because it really is a movement that's wrapped up a little bit more in his personality than into any set of principles, which is a fair criticism of Trump by some of his critics. Just because his critics happen to be full of crap doesn't mean everything that they're saying is untrue. Therefore, I would say this. These people, like Joe Walsh, calling for a primary challenge to Donald Trump, they have no chance. And I'll explain why. It's pretty simple. Most of the people who despise Donald Trump are not going to be voting in the Republican primary next year. They're going to be voting in the Democratic primary in order to get a Democrat that can challenge Trump in the general election. And therefore, Trump is easily going to romp through the Republican primaries, which are going to be a joke. I would say that the best answer would be to start surveying the landscape. And I don't know, there are some politicians right now within the Republican Party that could be suitable replacements for Trump. Ron DeSantis in Florida sometimes seems acceptable. I would certainly, in my opinion, still prefer Rand Paul. Even today, I would prefer Rand Paul any day over any other candidate for the presidency. Doesn't matter what party, including Donald Trump. And we have a real problem right now with the party as a whole. And that's why many people like myself don't even want to be involved in the Republican Party. So let me know what you think. I obviously am very keen to know what the other people who watch this channel feel about this current mood in the country. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Also, please subscribe to me on BitChute, Minds, and donate on Subscribestar if you want. All of those are at Chef Leopard and on Gab at Starscream85.
Inside my future eye, what I see just makes me cry.